On that cold February morning in Tampa, when 16-year-old shooter Dylan Brooks entered Roosevelt High School, the last thing he expected to face was the look in a 62-year-old groundskeeper's eyes, because those eyes had seen death. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before we continue with this powerful story, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this should never be forgotten, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these legends alive. Nobody ever noticed Frank Sullivan. He had been working at Roosevelt High, Tampa's largest high school, for 4 years. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., he would arrive, put on his green coveralls, grab his gardening tools, and had come to know every inch of the school's 15-acre grounds. Frank's daily routine operated with military precision. First, he would check the school perimeter, security vulnerabilities, suspicious activities, potential threats. Then he would begin the landscaping work. But this wasn't ordinary groundskeeping. Every movement, every glance was calculated. When students started arriving at 6:45 a.m., Frank would watch them from an unobtrusive position. Who was behaving differently than normal? Who seemed tense? Who was alone? Years spent in combat zones had taught him to read human behavior. Ashley Parker, 11th grade student. "Mom, that groundskeeper seems to be watching us again." Her mother. "Don't be silly, Ashley, he's just doing his job." But Ashley's observation was correct. Frank was watching, because he was protecting. But the students had never noticed the scars on his hands. Even while mowing the lawn, Frank's hands maintained tactical positioning. His right hand was always on the mower handle, but his left hand stayed free, ready to draw a weapon at any moment. Habit. A 20-year Marine habit. The scars on his hands weren't just war wounds. The deep gash on his left hand came from shrapnel in Fallujah. The burn mark on his right wrist was from pulling a buddy out of a burning tank. Every scar told a story. Every story was a loss. Rachel Davis, the math teacher, had the same conversation every morning. "Good morning, Frank. The lawn looks beautiful today." Frank: "Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day teaching." But what Rachel didn't know was that Frank was also checking her security. Was her car parked in a different spot than usual? Had her walking pattern changed? Did she seem stressed? The same checks every day, for every teacher, every staff member. Nobody knew that Frank had a hidden box in his equipment shed, behind the gardening tools. Inside was his old radio, first aid supplies, and a photograph. His team from Ramadi, 8 Marines, all gone now. The photo showed smiling faces. Sergeant Williams was only 19 years old. Corporal Thompson was about to get married. Lance Corporal Davis always carried a photo of his pregnant wife in his pocket. They all died in that bombing attack. Frank was the only survivor. And every day he asked himself, why me? The answer was here, at Roosevelt High, in the safety of 1,800 children, in his second chance. That's when everything changed. That February morning, 9:15 a.m., Frank was mowing the lawn, classic rock playing through his earbuds. Metallica, Enter Sandman. But a sound stopped him. A scream. Then running footsteps. Frank pulled out his earbuds. His experienced ear immediately recognized it, the sound of panic. Real panic. Students were running out of the main building, not randomly. Tactical evacuation, which meant the first gunshot. Frank's body reacted automatically. He shut off the mower. Adrenaline kicked in. Even 20 years later, the body remembered. Code Red. Code Red. Armed shooter, main building, all personnel to safe zones. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. Frank didn't run. He walked. But this wasn't an ordinary walk. Combat glide. Silent, fast, efficient. He reached his shed, opened the door. He pulled out the hidden box, grabbed the radio. "Control, this is Guardian. Report status." "Guardian? Who is this?" "This is an emergency frequency. Former Marine Frank Sullivan. I'm on campus. Report status." The voice changed. "Sullivan? Force recon?" "Affirmative. 1 shooter, main building, 2nd floor. Students are evacuating, but some are still trapped inside." Frank turned off the radio. He pulled something from the corner of his shed. An old tactical vest. It still had Sullivan written on it. He put it on. Then he looked at his hands. 62 years old. arthritis setting in, but muscle memory, that never goes away. Dylan Brooks, 16 years old, former Roosevelt High student, graduated last year, then his life fell apart. Online radical groups, hate speech, revenge plans. Dylan's story was tragic. His mother died of cancer, his father lost his job, their house was foreclosed. He was bullied at school, ostracized by his peers. His only escape was the online world, first games, then forums, then dark places, places where people fueled hatred, normalized violence. Feel powerless? Show them your strength. Did they hurt you? Get your revenge. Dylan had started believing these words. He'd made his plan months ago. Everyone at Roosevelt High would pay. The teachers who saw him as a failure, the students who excluded him, everyone. This morning he returned to his old school. In his backpack was an AR-15 and 200 rounds of ammunition. But in his mind was only revenge. As Dylan approached the school's front entrance, he saw the old man working in the garden. Mr. Sullivan. He remembered him. Always quiet, always kind. When Dylan was at school, he was the only person who actually said good morning to him. For a moment, he hesitated. Maybe, but then his anger returned. The whole world had betrayed him. Everyone would pay the price. Security guard Mike Thompson had been working at Roosevelt High for 15 years. He'd known Dylan since he was little. He was a troubled kid, but not a bad one. At least that's what he thought. Dylan? Son, how are you? Haven't seen you in a while. Thompson approached with a genuine smile. How's life going? Did you find a job? Dylan stopped. Thompson's eyes showed real interest, real concern. Maybe he was the last person who truly cared about Dylan. Good. It's going good, Mr. Thompson, Dylan said with a tremor in his voice. That's great, son. You were always a smart kid, I'm sure. Dylan felt the cold metal of the gun in his backpack. He remembered his plan, his anger, his pain. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson, he said almost in a whisper. Confusion appeared on Thompson's face. Sorry for what, so? Dylan's answer was a bullet. Thompson was shot in the chest, fell backward to the ground. His eyes stared at the ceiling, not understanding. Why? Why Dylan? He loved Dylan, trusted him. Thompson's last thought was about the breakfast he'd had with his wife at home. Will you come home early today, Mike? There's a good movie on Netflix. He would never come home now. Dylan entered the main corridor. First blood was spilled. There was no turning back now. Frank entered the main building through the side door, silently. 40 years of experience kicked in. On the first floor, he smelled blood. Thompson. He was a good man. He wouldn't be reuniting with his family. Frank pushed his own pain aside. Now it was time to protect the others. The first floor was secure, but sounds were coming from upstairs. Gunshots, screams, running footsteps, and worst of all, silence. Dead silence. Frank approached the stairs, every step calculated. He pressed his back against the wall, looked up. He'd done the same when clearing houses in Ramadi. Same tactics, same awareness, same composure. But what he was protecting this time was different. This time, it was children. On the second floor in the math corridor, there was chaos. Screaming, running, doors slamming. Dylan was in the center, gun in hand, madness in his eyes. As Frank approached him, he analyzed the scene. Dylan's movements were erratic, untrained, but he had a weapon and plenty of ammunition. Frank only had experience. Frank saw the math teacher's office door that Dylan was targeting. At least 6 teachers were trapped inside. Rachel Davis was among them. "Open the door!" Dylan was screaming. "I'll find all of you!" A trembling voice from inside. "Dylan, please, we never did anything bad to you." "Shut up, all of you lied. You said I would succeed." Frank's mind rapidly processed tactical analysis. Target, 30 meters ahead in open position. Civilian risk, very high. Students in corridor, teachers in office. Approach route, left stairs, advance along wall, flanking maneuver. Weapon status, none on me, but usable objects nearby. Target condition, panicked, untrained, but armed and dangerous. Frank saw the fire cabinet at the end of the corridor. Inside was an axe. An old Marine doesn't need a weapon. Anything can be a weapon. He took the axe, felt its weight. He'd used an axe like this in Ramadi too, to break down doors. But today, Dylan started kicking the teacher's office door. Bang, bang. The door began to crack. "I'm counting to 10, he shouted. "When I finish counting, I'm coming in." 10, 9, 8. Frank's time was running out. He approached. 20 meters, 15 meters, 10 meters. 6, 5, 4. Dylan turned around. The two men locked eyes. In that moment, Frank didn't see only anger in Dylan's eyes. There was pain too, and fear. This wasn't just a bad kid. This was a broken child. But being broken didn't make him any less dangerous. "Who are you, old man?" Dylan pointed his gun at Frank. Frank stopped, the axe in his hand, cold determination in his eyes, but fatherly compassion in his voice. "My name is Frank Sullivan, Dylan, and you're not going to hurt anyone in this school." A flicker appeared in Dylan's eyes. Aren't you the groundskeeper?" "Yes, but I'm not just a groundskeeper." "What do you mean?" Frank took a step forward. "What I mean is this, Dylan. I've suffered pain like you have. I've lost friends too. I'm angry too, but I don't target children." Dylan's gun started trembling. "You don't understand me." "I understand, Dylan. Believe me, I understand, but this is wrong." "No! They have to pay!" That's when Frank moved. You won't believe what happens next. 62 years old, but his body reacted like it was 20 years younger. Frank rolled left, threw the axe. The movement was so fast that Dylan couldn't react. Dylan's gun fired, but Frank was no longer there. The bullet hit where Frank had been standing a second before. The axe spun through the air toward Dylan's gun. Hit! The weapon flew from Dylan's hand, rolled to the end of the corridor. Frank got to his feet, ran toward Dylan, but Dylan had a second weapon, a handgun. He pulled it from inside his jacket, pointed it at Frank. "It's too late now, old man." Dylan's voice cracked. "I prepared for this. You just got lucky." Frank stopped. 2 meters distance, Dylan's finger on the trigger. He wouldn't miss from this range. But there was no fear in Frank's eyes, only sadness. "You're a child, Dylan," he said in a calm voice. "The people I've killed were more dangerous than you." "What?" Dylan's hand started shaking. "Marine Force Recon, 47 successful operations. I killed terrorists, Dylan. People who killed innocents, who targeted children. Do you want to be like them?" Confusion appeared on Dylan's face. I'm strong. I'll show them." "Strong people don't target children, Dylan. Strong people protect the weak." Frank took a step forward. "Stay back!" Dylan waved the gun. Frank didn't stop. Another step. "Dylan, look at me. I've suffered too. I've lost friends too, but I didn't seek revenge." "Do you know why?" Dylan shook his head, trembling. "Because revenge doesn't ease your pain, Dylan. It only creates more pain." "No!" "They did this to me." "Who, Dylan? These teachers? These children? What did they do to you?" Tears started flowing from Dylan's eyes. They didn't see me. Nobody ever saw me." Frank took another step. "I see you, Dylan. You're a smart kid. You have a good heart. This isn't your true face." "It's too late." Dylan held the gun with shaking hands. "It's never too late. You can kill me, Dylan. But then what happens? They'll kill you, and nothing will change. Your pain won't go away. Just more mothers, more fathers will lose their children." Frank took the final step. Now the barrel was pressed against his chest. "You can kill me, Dylan, but you can't kill them, because I won't let you." Dylan was crying now. I just don't want to hurt anymore." "I know, son. I didn't want to hurt either, but spreading your pain to others won't make it go away." Frank slowly reached toward the gun. "Give it to me, Dylan. Let's end this." Dylan was trembling. I'm a bad person." "No, you're a child in pain. And protecting children in pain is my job." Dylan's finger moved away from the trigger. Frank took the handgun, engaged the safety, removed the bullets. Then he hugged Dylan. Dylan collapsed. He sobbed uncontrollably. I'm sorry. I know, son. I know." Frank held Dylan as he cried, just like he'd held that young soldier in Ramadi, just like every child who should have been held. The sound of sirens was approaching, Police sirens were getting closer. 5 minutes later, the SWAT team arrived. The scene that greeted them was surprising. A 62-year-old groundskeeper holding the attacker on the ground. No, not holding, embracing. Dylan was still crying. Frank was trying to comfort him. SWAT leader Sergeant Williams approached with his weapon drawn. Hands visible. Slowly, get to your feet. Frank stood up, pointed to the name on his tactical vest. Gunnery Sergeant Frank Sullivan, Marine Force Recon, retired. Williams's eyes widened. You're a Marine? Was. Now I'm a groundskeeper. Williams grabbed his radio. Control. Situation stabilized. A civilian Marine veteran has neutralized the attacker. We need medical team. As paramedics put Dylan on a stretcher, Frank stayed by his side. Dylan, look at me. You're a good kid. What you did isn't who you are. You'll get help. You'll heal. Dylan nodded, trembling. Mr. Sullivan, I want to be like you. You're already a good person, Dylan. You just need to learn how to manage your pain. As Dylan was taken away in the ambulance, Frank waved goodbye to him. Williams turned to Frank. Sergeant Sullivan, can you tell me what happened here? Long story, Sergeant, but in short, a child needed help. I helped. No, sir, what are you doing here? Your experience, your identity, CIA, FBI? Frank laughed. Neither. I'm just a groundskeeper, but I used to be a Marine, and Marines never really retire. That day, a legend was born at Roosevelt High School. Students, teachers, parents, everyone was asking the same question. Who was this man, really? The news started that evening. Mysterious veteran saves school. Former soldier hiding as groundskeeper. Roosevelt High's secret hero. But Frank didn't watch any of it. The next day, Frank came to work. Same green coveralls, same gardening tools, same routine. But nothing was the same anymore. There was media at the school entrance, news cameras, questions. Frank ignored them all, entered through the side door. Students were now addressing him as Sir. Teachers greeted him with respect. But what changed most was how he looked at them. He no longer saw them as people to protect, but as people he had protected. At 10:30 a.m., the principal called him to her office. Frank, Principal Williams said with a trembling voice, I didn't know. If I had known. What would you have done? Frank asked calmly. I don't know. Maybe I would have given you more responsibility. Maybe regarding security. Frank shook his head. This way was better. I just wanted to be a groundskeeper. But why, Frank? Why are you here? With your background, with the media attention, you could work anywhere you want. Frank looked out the window. Students were on break, playing safely. Rachel Davis was teaching them math. Kevin Williams was playing basketball. Ashley Parker was laughing with friends. Ma'am, Frank said, I couldn't protect a school in Ramadi. A bomber got inside. 23 children died that day. Even though I can't see them, I can still hear their voices. Williams's eyes filled with tears. There are 1,800 children here, and I can protect them. Maybe that's my only purpose. Maybe the reason I survived Ramadi was to come here. Frank, you're a hero. Frank laughed. No, ma'am. Heroes are movie characters. I'm just someone doing his job, and my job is mowing grass and protecting these children. Williams stood up. Frank, I have a request. Ma'am, would you consult on security matters? Would you train the teachers? Frank raised his hand. Ma'am, I'm a groundskeeper. But if my help is needed, I'm here. During lunch break, while Frank was working in the garden, Kevin Williams approached him. Behind Kevin were more than 10 students. Mr. Sullivan, Kevin said hesitantly, Can we talk to you? Frank stopped the mower. Sure. What's up, Kevin? We heard about what happened yesterday, and you really risked your life for us. Frank crouched down to the student's level. No, Kevin. I just did the right thing. Ashley Parker stepped forward. But you faced death. For us. Ashley, I know you. I know all of you. I know Kevin struggles with math tests. I know Ashley is talented in art. You all have dreams, futures. I'm just an old man. You have much more to lose. Sarah Davis, Rachel's daughter, spoke with tears in her eyes. Mr. Sullivan, my mom said you saved her too. Frank smiled. Your mom is a great teacher, Sarah. Losing her would be a great loss. What about Dylan? You tried to protect him too. Why? Frank thought for a long time. Because he's a child too, Kevin. A broken, suffering child. And I took an oath to protect all children. An oath? Yes. When I became a Marine, I swore an oath to protect my country, innocence, future generations. That oath never ends. The students listened silently. Mr. Sullivan, Ashley said, we want to be like you. Frank stood up. No, Ashley. Don't become like me. Be better than me. You protect peace. I try to protect peace through war. You protect peace through peace. That evening when Frank got home, there was news on television. A statement from the Pentagon. We proudly acknowledge Gunnery Sergeant Frank Sullivan's heroism in civilian life. He represents someone who lives Marine values everywhere. Additionally, attacker Dylan Brooks will receive professional help and treatment. Frank turned off the television. Hearing that Dylan would receive treatment made him happy. He had received awards, heard praise, but none had felt as meaningful as that day. Because for the first time, it was coming from people he had actually protected. The next morning on his way to work, he saw a small sign at the school entrance. The students had hung it. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, our silent guardian. Also, next to the entrance, a small flower garden had been planted. Inside was a plaque. Frank Sullivan Memorial Garden, True Heroes Protect Silently. Frank smiled. He didn't take down the sign because maybe they needed to see it. Maybe the world needed to remember what real heroes looked like. He took his mower, pushed his cart, and got to work. Because Roosevelt High School's lawn needed to be mowed, and Frank Sullivan, as always, was just doing his job. But now there was a difference. There was purpose in every step, meaning in every breath. This wasn't just work. This was mission. A few months later, Dylan Brooks was in the news again. He was receiving treatment, making progress. He'd even written a letter to Frank. Mr. Sullivan, I'm getting better. I'll never forget what you told me that day. You taught me what strong people do. I want to be like you someday. Thank you. Frank smiled when he read the letter. This was it. This was why he had survived. This was why he was here. Roosevelt High was a different place now. Students treated each other more kindly. Teachers listened more carefully. Administrators took security more seriously. And Frank? Frank was still a groundskeeper, but now he wasn't just mowing grass, he was protecting the future. Every morning when he came to work, he looked at that photograph, his team from Ramadi, 8 Marines, and he made them a promise. Guys, I'm here. I'm protecting them. For you. And they were happy too, Frank knew, because the mission was finally complete. Some heroes fly with capes, some fight in uniforms, but the best ones protect in green coveralls, wait silently, and act when necessary. Because real power is the power to remain hidden. Frank Sullivan never wanted to be famous, never tried to collect medals, and never tried to prove to anyone what he had done. He just came to work every morning, went home every evening, and in between protected 1,800 children. And that was enough. Actually, that was everything. Now I ask you, have you ever encountered someone like Frank Sullivan? Someone who serves silently, expects no praise, just does what's right? Write their names in the comments. Share their stories. Because here at Hidden Legends, we believe the most powerful stories don't shout. They wait. If this story moved you, subscribe, share, and help us keep these voices alive. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, if you see someone quietly walking the corridors, look twice, because they might just be cleaning the floor or they might be protecting your life. And remember, real heroes are always among us. We just need to learn to recognize them.